When the families of victims of the 9/11 attacks were concerned about a mosque which will be built near the site, and they had questions, many Americans were sympathetic to them. Who was behind this? Who was the imam leading it? Where would the money come from? There were some valid questions to be asked. Nancy Pelosi instead said the government must investigate those who were asking the questions. As a mere congressman, Nancy Pelosi wouldn't have the bully pulpit to tell Catholic leaders they have to preach in favor of amnesty for illegals. But with Democrats in the majority in Congress and them voting for her as Speaker, she did, and she used it.
Cardinals, the archbishops, the bishops that come to me and say, we want you to pass immigration reform, and I said, but I want you to speak about it from the pulpit.
As Speaker of the House, Nancy Pelosi demanded the Air Force provide a new, bigger, more expensive plane at taxpayer expense to travel around the country campaigning for Democrats. She got it, you paid for it. A CBS poll in March of this year showed 11% of Americans view Pelosi favorably, but 219 Democrats support her. That's how many she coerced into voting for Obamacare. Did anybody who voted for Obamacare actually read the bill? The massive document that starting in January will rule our lives? Here is John Conyers, a congressman for the last 45 years and the chairman of a major committee, answering whether he read the health care bill before he voted.
I love these members that get up and say, read the bill. What good is reading the bill if it's 1,000 pages and you don't have 2 days and 2 lawyers to find out what it means after you read the bill?
Obamacare was a massive change to our health care, which is important to every American. The day it passed, nobody even knew what was in it, so nobody knew whether to support it or oppose it.
By the time the vote has taken place, not only I will know what's in it, you'll know what's in it because it's going to be posted, and everybody's going to be able to evaluate it on the merits.
Health rationing, death panels, new costs, reduced services, all administered by some independent payment advisory board that'll act like the Cuban government in making our health care decisions for us. Cuban rationed health care. Ask any Cuban refugee what that was like. Then listen to Congressman, Democrat, Diane Watson.
Did anyone say anything about the Cuban health system? And let me tell you, before you say, oh, it's coming, you need to go down there and see what Fidel Castro put in place.
Americans didn't want it, and polls showed that. We had questions, we had concerns. Congress wanted to pretend to listen to us, all the while reassuring us. So town hall meetings were hastily called as a PR move to show that Congress was listening to this restless public concerned over the bill. But Democrats didn't want to listen to us. They wanted to be treated like royalty and not questioned. We were small-minded to question their wisdom. Senator Arlen Specter yelled at his constituents that they shouldn't be asking questions. They should just be happy he showed up in their little town.
I'm encouraging constitutional rights by coming to Lebanon to talk to my constituents. I could be somewhere else. I don't get any extra pay. I don't have any requirement to be here.
Congress didn't care that nobody read it and that we were opposed. We said they couldn't pass a bill that nobody had read and nobody understood, that the public opposed.
Yes, we can.
But they did pass it, and as they did, they chanted, yes, we can. It wasn't about improved medical care for Americans. It was a redistribution of wealth, the doling of political favors for votes. Former top Democrat Howard Dean.
When it gets out of whack, as it did in the 20s and it has now, you need to do some redistribution. This is a form of redistribution.
Nancy Pelosi even claimed that Obamacare would create jobs.
So this bill is not only about the health security of America, it's about jobs. In its life, it will create 4 million jobs, 400,000 jobs almost immediately.
If enough Americans vote out their Democratic congressman, Nancy Pelosi will no longer be the Speaker. The Speaker appoints committee chairman, so the following Democrats would lose their power. Henry Waxman, chair of Energy and Commerce, where he's pushed for cap and trade and tried to convince everyone that global warming is happening, despite the scientific evidence to the contrary. Barney Frank, chair of Financial Services. Barney Frank hired a male prostitute to perform sex for him, then put him in his congressional office so we could pay him. Then the male escort opens an illegal escort sex service out of Frank's apartment, and Barney Frank claims he didn't know? And he is in charge of the financial service industry? No wonder we got screwed in the housing meltdown.
The right wing took control of government and ruined it. They gave it a bad reputation. Now that we are trying in every front to increase the role of government in the regulatory area, we run into this public opinion that says, hey, those are the guys who screwed up Katrina. So the frustration is they're benefiting from their own incompetence.
John Conyers, chair of the House Judiciary Committee, the man who bragged that he didn't read the health care bill because it had too many pages. His ethics violations include admitting during an investigation that he broke ethics rules when he used taxpayer-funded staffers as personal chauffeurs and to babysit his children. He's in charge of who our judges will be? Then there's Charlie Rangel, chair of the powerful Ways and Means Committee, charged with various ethics violations over a long period of time. He refuses to step down. The audacity of hope, I suppose.
I am not going away. I am here.
Even Democrats without chairmanships have more influence when their party is in power, like ethics violations suspects Eddie Bernice Johnson and Maxine Waters.
This liberal will be all about socializing, would be about basically taking over and the government running all of your companies.
The president of Mexico insulted the state of Arizona standing on the floor of the U.S. House on American soil. These Democrats stood and cheered for him. We've never seen anything like that in American history. If Republicans take a majority in the House, the Obama assaults on our freedom and our pocketbooks will be stopped. When Republicans won the House in '94, Bill Clinton was blocked for the next 6 years from enacting his agenda. He was left to spend his time, well, you know what he was left to spend his time doing because he got impeached for it.
I did not have sexual relations with that woman, Ms. Lewinsky.
Now let's move to the Senate. There are 58 Democrats in the Senate, plus 2 independents who caucus with Democrats and vote with them. So effectively, they have 60 votes. Exactly enough to keep the 40 Republicans from slowing them down on troubling bills or appointments. Republicans need 10 seats to take control of the Senate. If that happens, Harry Reid would lose his position as majority leader. The bailouts and stimulus packages that redistribute to Democratic causes and rack up massive debts would be blocked. Democrats would lose their chairmanships of powerful committees, so those senators would lose a lot of power. That's people like John Kerry, chair of the Senate Foreign Relations Committee. He could focus on where to relocate his tax-cheating yacht during hurricanes. The man in charge of foreign relations belittles our troops as idiots who didn't pay attention in school.
Education, if you make the most of it, and you study hard, and you do your homework, and you make an effort to be smart, you can do well. If you don't, you get stuck in Iraq.
Barbara Boxer, head of Environment and Public Works, where she's promising more global warming hearings and other ways to hurt industry. The imperious Boxer is famous for demanding to be treated like a queen. She belittled an Army brigadier general who is trained to call senators sir and madam with this.
Ma'am, at the LACPR is...
do me a favor. Could you say senator instead of ma'am?
Yes,
it's just a thing. I worked so hard to get that title, so I'd appreciate it. Yes, thank you.
Dianne Feinstein, Democrat, chair of Select Committee on Intelligence, who claimed she would be embarrassed to wear a U.S. flag pin on her lapel and who wants to silence conservative talk radio through the Fairness Doctrine.
Do you have a problem with talk radio, and would you revive the Fairness Doctrine?
Well, I'm looking at it, as a matter of fact.
Chris Dodd is retiring because he wouldn't have been reelected, so he'll no longer chair the Banking, Housing, and Urban Affairs Committee. But his replacement would be poised to do the same thing. Chris Dodd oversaw banking, and he got special, unethical, low-rate financing on 2 different mortgages. It was Democrat Dodd who inserted the audacious AIG bonuses into a bill, which the taxpayers were forced to first bail out, then shelled out millions more for bonuses of the executives of the failing company. Then there's the ringleader, Harry Reid, majority leader. He's been in public office since 1964, never in the private sector, over 40 years in government. He can't be laid off. He's in the government.
Today is a big day in America. Only 36,000 people lost their jobs today, which is really good.
Harry Reid, the leader of the Senate, equated opposition to Obamacare with being a slave owner and said Hispanics should never be Republicans. He urged the Senate to extend unemployment for 2 years on the basis that men become abusive to their women if they don't have a job. These guys have to go. Without a majority in the Senate, they can't cram their radical agenda down our throats, and they cannot enact and enable Obama's dangerous vision. A Republican majority in the Senate would also dramatically affect the third chamber of government, which serves for life, the judiciary. Consider the top court, the Supreme Court. No more Sonia Sotomayors and Elena Kagans, if there's a majority of Republicans in the Senate. Sotomayor, you'll remember, believed that wise women Hispanics were more qualified to judge than white men, and her earlier rulings have been repeatedly overturned by the court on which she now serves. Elena Kagan is arguably the least qualified justice to serve in the last 50 years, with no judicial experience and having hidden everything about her that would prove how truly liberal she is. If Democrats lose control of the Senate, no more Supreme Court justices will be ratified and take the bench with a desire to attack our freedoms, redistribute our income, and regulate our lives. Federal judges serve for life, and they have incredible authority. A Clinton appointee back in 2000 decided in 2010 that many provisions of the Arizona law dealing with illegal immigration must be struck before the law even went into effect, invalidating the Arizona Senate and governor, both of which were elected by the majority of that state's citizens. That one judge, appointed 2 presidents and 10 years ago, defeated the will of the people of that entire state. In the next few years, the Supreme Court will likely hear cases on abortion, gay marriage, gun control, expressing our faith, tax policy, and more. Supreme Court justices serve for life, which can be 30 or more years. Obama can appoint more bad justices, but a Republican Senate can defeat them. Save our courts, protect our freedoms, consider our future. If your senator is a Democrat, vote him out. Finally, all that matters is voting. In 2008, 68% of Americans turned out to vote. 32% stayed home. This year, it's expected to be 40% that'll vote. That means that with just 21% of voters, a congressman or senator can win. It's winner take all, so that person serves a full term and gets to count toward a majority in the House or Senate for their party. Another vote for Reid, another vote for Pelosi. A majority of Americans disapprove of Obama and the Democrats, but all that matters is who shows up and votes. Have you been frustrated, angry, or shocked for the past 2 years? Do not wait. The time to act is now. In most states, you have to register to vote within the next few weeks, and you can vote early before November 2nd. Don't wait. Register and get others who will vote out the Democrats to register also. Do it now. Vote early and get others to do the same. It's election season. They have consultants. Don't be fooled by petty issues, by claims of Democrats being independent. Don't be fooled by the distractions or other clever ways Democrats will try to cling to their power. They may run from Pelosi, Reid, and Obama now, even criticizing them, and pretend that they're one of us, but they supported those 3, and they enabled them to cram their agenda down our throats. We'll be paying off the debts of the past 20 months for the next 20 years. Vote them out. Restore our country. We're the greatest nation in the history of mankind. Let's act like it. Don't just get mad. Get involved now and take back your country.